dictator of a distant, war-torn nation in Africa or Asia declares their plan to intentionally reduce the population of an ethnic group inside the country, the Western world responds with outrage. News programs issue denunciations, newspapers write pieces detailing the plight of the targeted group, sanctions are leveled, and the threat of regime change is issued. Leaders who openly collude to reduce or eliminate a particular group of people are evil, and we have a name for their crime. It's called ethnic cleansing. But now it's Western leaders making a simple declaration. Their countries are too white, and the white population must be replaced. No denunciations are issued, no sanctions are leveled, and no one threatens regime change. It appears that the global community is strangely comfortable with ethnic cleansing as long as it's carried out against whites in Western nations. The term the Great Replacement was originally coined by French philosopher René Camus. For a long time, it was only uttered in hushed tones or deployed in French internet discourse. Uttering the phrase in mainstream media was unthinkable, and using it on popular social media platforms would get an account banned immediately. Despite this extreme taboo, the explanatory power of the phrase was just too great, and it was breaching containment. Now, major conservative pundits and publications will openly discuss the concept, while videos on YouTube that mention the topic, they do still receive content warnings, but they're allowed to gain hundreds of thousands of views. Increasingly, the Great Replacement is a pattern that everyone can observe and name. Diversity has been a euphemism for replacing white people for quite some time. When a corporation, movie studio, or educational institution wants to increase diversity, they never mean that they intend to hire more white straight men because there are just too many trans black women on the team. Diversity, equity, and inclusion were never guidelines meant to create demographic proportionality inside the organizations where they were employed. It was an implicit and often explicit declaration that the leadership of the organization intended to increase the number of non-white members while reducing the number of white members. An employer stating as a goal the reduction of any other demographic would be seen correctly as an outrageous display of systemic racism. But when it's done to white people, it's just considered a laudable social goal. Organizations creating euphemisms for anti-white discrimination is horrific, but governments declaring the same goal is nightmarish. Progressives in the United States have been routinely celebrating the falling number of white Americans and bragging about how demographic transformation will guarantee perpetual electoral victory for the Democrats. The undercover investigative organization Project Veritas recently recorded a State Department official admitting that replacement migration is a political strategy deployed by the left to ensure electoral victory. Despite public and private confirmation of this strategy, whenever conservatives acknowledge its existence, they're branded conspiracy theorists. Even if ethnic hatred wasn't a motivation, and it most certainly is, the explicit effort to reduce the number of whites inside the country to subvert the democratic process is already outrageous and should be seen as the scandal of the century. In Spain, Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez of the country's Socialist Workers' Party has decided that more than 500,000 immigrants will receive amnesty. The Prime Minister couldn't secure support for the move in Parliament and simply bypassed the legislative body by issuing an amnesty decree. For perspective, Spain has a population of around 49 million, which means amnesty for 500,000 would be roughly equivalent to amnesty for 3.5 million in the United States. The far-left leader, Irene Montero, announced before a crowd that she hoped for replacement theory and intended to use the new migrant voters to wipe out her political opponents. In the United Kingdom, the situation is even worse. The sad joke among those who visit cities like London is that the Englishman is an endangered species in the metropolises that his ancestors have built. Now, unsatisfied with driving the native English from their major cities, government officials have turned their eyes to the countryside. The Department for Environment, Food, and Rural Affairs has decided that the countryside is too white and too middle class. A new program designed to diversify rural England has encountered a few difficulties, however, as officials discovered that Muslims don't like dogs, a common feature of life in the English countryside, and avoid living around them. Protected landscapes, canine companions, and relative solitude are all considered white culture, so officials are looking for more ways to change life in the countryside so it can be more welcoming to Pakistanis and Bangladeshis. The government is unapologetically admitting its intention to destroy the nature of the English countryside to make it less like a place where white people will live, so fewer white people will live there. Diversity, equity, inclusion, decolonization, the euphemisms have been plentiful, but the goal is always the same. Even the Great Replacement, while a useful phrase, is ultimately one which has obfuscated the true nature of what's going on. When any other group in any other nation is systematically targeted by political parties, institutions, or the government itself, we recognize the problem. If the goal is to remove, reduce, or replace an ethnic group from a given place, the correct term to describe that process is not diversification, it's ethnic cleansing. This is not some natural process occurring from demographic ebbs and flows. The process is a goal proudly announced by Western politicians and manufactured top-down by eager government functionaries. It's frankly incredible that a taboo was ever erected around acknowledging this very obvious fact, but it's time to tear that taboo down and discard it. When Western politicians, corporate heads, and college professors declare their intention to replace white populations, they should be met with the same disgust and hostility that anyone celebrating ethnic cleansing in any other context would experience. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this episode, please go ahead and click like, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, now is a great time to do so. If you want to get these broadcasts as podcasts, you need to subscribe to the Auron MacIntyre Show on your favorite podcast platform, and when you do, leave a rating or review. It really helps with the algorithm magic. One of the ways that we keep the lights on around here is, of course, subscriptions to Blaze TV. So if you want to support the show, you want to make sure that I can keep doing what I'm doing, and you want to get access to all the other great Blaze TV content with behind the scenes, the hosts, everything else, make sure to head to blazetv.com/Auron and use the promo code Auron to get $20 off. That's blazetv.com/Auron. And make sure to use the promo code Auron to get $20 off your subscription today. If you want to follow me on Twitter or Gab or Substack, if you want to get these episodes on Rumble or Odyssey, the links to do all of that are down below in the description. And don't forget, we do still have show merchandise in the Blaze TV store. So if you want to support the show, you can head over there and pick something up. Thanks for watching, guys. And as always, I'll talk to you next time.